When your glamping business has already got a 2-year waiting list, what on earth inspires you to put yourself through the pressure of going on the Dragon's Den? For those of you in the USA, that is the equivalent of Shark Tank. So how did it come about for Derry Green of the Secret Garden Glamping? What were his results? Did he get investment? And how does it work behind the scenes? This is something Derry shares and more, including tips for others who are wanting to gain investment. There's a lot in this episode, so grab yourself a drink and get ready to be inspired to do amazing things. Welcome to episode 66. Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley, and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome, this is the business of glamping and unique holiday rentals. Derry, thank you so much for joining me today. I couldn't wait to chat to you because you've previously chatted about your story and how you've developed your glamping business to an epic success of having a 2-year waiting list. That's episode 57 if anyone wants to listen to that. But you have since kept going with such momentum. It's actually quite mind-blowing because many people in the kind of entrepreneurial space, they can get a bit distracted by not being able to make a decision, feeling like they can't do a certain thing. They kind of limit themselves a bit, but you haven't been limiting yourself at all. So I couldn't wait to get you on to talk about your recent experience. But for anyone who hasn't listened to the previous episode, talk a little bit about where you've come from, what you've been doing, and why you find yourself in this position now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great to speak to you again. I had a great time last time we had a chat. So yeah, the Secret Garden Glamping all started in the first lockdown, so March of 2020. I was stuck at home with my 2 young children at the time, as everybody was, and we had a camping trip in the garden. And from that camping trip in the garden, it was like a project that got out of hand. So each day, I just kept building a bit more. So it started with a deck so we could camp on, so we weren't camping on the grass. And then as that evolved, that deck got a bit bigger, and I added a fire pit, and then I added some furniture, and then I started building what I now know to be a glamping pod. And as days turned into weeks, into months, by the end of it, I'd then created a whole glamping space within my garden. And that was it. It was always just something to do with the kids and somewhere for us to spend our time. We knew we was not going to be going on holiday for a long time with COVID. So it was somewhere we could spend that summer and relax. But from that, a story came out in COVID about what a dad had built in lockdown for his kids when everybody was building home bars and things like that. And there's a photo of me and my son and my daughter. And, it was like a proud dad, what I'd built for him. And that was it. And then people started messaging me through social media and asking if they could book it for a holiday, which at the time seemed crazy to me. I thought, it's just in my garden. Why would you want to come and stay here? But, I thought, well, I had nothing to lose. And I put it on Airbnb. And then Airbnb took it and put it on their homepage. And then from there, it was booked for 2 years in advance within the space of like 3 days. And I was blown away by it. And I'd never thought of running a glamping business or an accommodation business. And, I quickly realized it was something I needed to learn how to do. And capitalizing on that first, that first unit, I saw there was a gap in the market for what I'd done. Glamping's been around for a long time and people have done lots of things, but it was trying to bring something new to the industry. So from there, 3 years later now, we've got 12 different units. So we've just finished our newest one, the Wonderland. So we're doing the photo shoot for that this afternoon and this evening, because that opens to guests next week. So nobody's seen that unit yet. All they've seen is a logo, and that's sold out within 47 minutes. So that's fully booked until about the end of 2025 at the moment, but nobody's seen the photos because they only get released next week when the first guests stay. So yeah, it's been phenomenal. We're up to nearly 750,000 followers on social media now. We've had over 500 million views. Our audience is phenomenal, and that's growing day on day, week on week. So now it's always been about expanding. You know, I love designing units. I love building units. I love coming up with different creative things to do in each one. And yeah, seeing where the journey can take us next.
I think the thing that really stands out for me for what you just said there is how you listen to your customer and what they were asking for, and you duplicated that, and you've built on that, and you've made new things. And the very fact that you've been able to sell out something that people haven't even seen yet shows to me that you've also built this amazing relationship between yourself and your audience. They trust you. They know you're going to create something amazing. They like what you've done before. And that's why they're willing to pay for something that they've not seen. I mean, has that really taken you by surprise that it sold out that quickly?
Yeah, to be fair, every time I do it, it still amazes me. When I did the first one, the first one was in COVID, and everybody was looking, they were stuck at home, wanting to get out. I understand why that took off so well, and I can see the kind of marketing behind it and what people were looking for. 3 years down the line now, you can go anywhere you want, you can do anything you want, but people are still relating to what we're doing and what I'm building here, and it is building up. It's the brand and around what we do. So, what you said just a minute ago was perfectly right. It was trust. People know what I've done before, and they know whatever I'm going to do is going to be something better than I've done before. So if you look at the first unit we did, the Hideout, compared to the latest one we've done, so the Wilderness Spa, it is like night and day. Each time we learn something, we come up with new ideas, we figure out what worked really, really well in that unit, what we can do to make the next unit better. And people know that. So they know whatever we're going to do next is going to be amazing. It's not suddenly going to be a dip off from what we've done. It's going to be another level up from where we are. So it's constantly evolving and making each one unique and different. So yeah, building that confidence in the audience. So now they're at the point where they know it's going to be phenomenal. And they also know if they don't book it straight away, then it's going to be gone. So if they wait till this week, for example, when we launch the photos of what it's going to be like, everybody will want to book it. So where they're ahead of the curve, sort of thing.
So does this mean you've been tracking how many people are coming back to your business, so you know exactly how many repeats you get?
Yeah. So it's our repeat business is really, really high. So we've had people now who've stayed in, I think the most is 10 units. We're building them quicker than they can stay. So we've had somebody who stayed in 10 different units, because each one is unique, although they have the same overall theme. So that's where it comes down to trust within the audience. So they know they're going to get minimum standards. They're going to have a hot tub. They're going to have outdoor space. They're going to have Wi-Fi. They're going to have underfloor heating, toilets. So all the standard stuff within our brand is still there, but then each one is going to be even more unique, even quirkier, have something that the other ones don't. So you're still building around a base and then expanding on that.
How many units do you have in total now?
So we're now opening number 12, which is the Wonderland. And then we've got one more unit at this current site called the Lux, which is under construction at the minute, and that's due to open in April. The dates for that are going to go online at the end of this month. So it's usually about 3 months before the unit opens is when the pre-bookings go online, and that's when they sell out then.
So I recently saw you at, well, I say recently, it was back last year in September at an industry show, and you were running around buying things left, right, and center. And I'd been hearing about what was going on in your new project, and incredibly exciting. But I'm really interested in what led you to go from Secret Garden Glamping, which you've set up, to now this new project. Tell me a little bit about that journey and how that happened.
So again, the stumbling block, although it's a good stumbling block to have, is availability for us. So we've always had that issue from the start. We've been fully booked, and we're having to currently we're turning away around 1,000 bookings a week, and it gets more and more as our audience grows. So every time our audience grows, so every time we launch a new unit or there's a new publication out about us or whatever it is, our audience grows. So then it's harder and harder for especially repeat customers, which we love to have, to get those bookings that they want because there's more of an audience there in the first place to try and get hold of them. So we've known from, well, the early days that I've had to expand. I genuinely thought by the time in years to come we got to the end of this site, that'd be more than enough. But we're now 3 years ahead of where I thought we'd be. And we're already, we're still fully booked on everything. So when we was trying to make 1 or 2 or 3 units, be successful, at the time, that was probably relatively easy. When we get to 12 and 13 units, that'd be much harder to fill those. But we've filled those or could fill those 10 times over. So the obvious choice now is to expand and take what we do into a larger kind of format then.
So what was your thinking around going from glamping to going to a larger property?
So we've noticed, and I think the whole industry has in general, so where before, glamping probably specifically, but again, I guess staycations and the midweek staycations, which is where everybody struggles. Everybody can fill a weekend. Kids are off, you're off work, whatever else. The midweek thing has always been the challenge, and that's always been targeted at kind of couples who can maybe get away, they haven't got kids, maybe younger couples, things like that. So what we've noticed, especially over the past 12 to 24 months, is that people are now holidaying in larger groups. So it's multi-generational families. So it's now not just mum and dad and kids. It's mum, dad, kids, grandma, granddad, maybe an auntie or an uncle and their kids, and they want to holiday together. Because of COVID, again, they've not been able to see each other, and they've realised that actually spending time together, especially outdoors, as a family group, is really beneficial. And then also, when it comes down to even couples or groups of families, what they can afford as an individual is a lot less than they can afford as a group. So we do it quite often when we've done this for 10, 15 years, I think. We go away as a group of friends each year snowboarding. And rather than each staying in a hotel and it costing X amount, we hire an Airbnb or a chalet, and we split it between 10 or 12 of us. And it becomes really, really cheap to do because you're splitting it with a larger group. So these larger properties, larger accommodations, more luxurious accommodations is what people are now looking for, because they want to be able to accommodate everybody in one space, but still have their own individual spaces to go to at night, whether that be multiple units on a site where they can all go and sleep on their own but congregate in the daytime, or with bigger houses and things like that where they can all have their own bedrooms. Gone are the days of, well, mum and dad can sleep on the sofa bed and auntie and uncle can go in the loft or something like that. Everybody wants to have their own comfort and space, but still be able to get together.
Absolutely. So what led you to, I mean, most entrepreneurs are looking for investment when they're looking for a bigger project, a new project, but what specifically led you to go into the Dragon's Den?
So Dragon's Den all came about on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, and a message popped up through Instagram from one of the producers on Dragon's Den saying they'd seen our content on there and would I be interested in going pitching to the Dragons. Now, it's never something I've thought of in a million years. I've watched Dragon's Den for forever, and I never thought in a million years I'd be on it, let alone looking for an investment, because in all honesty, an investment isn't what we need at the moment. From a cash flow point of view, there's no need for it. We're fully self-funded. We can expand as we go along. But what actually really intrigued me with Dragon's Den, which I think has changed over the years, where people used to go in specifically because they needed, £50,000 to buy this piece of equipment. Actually, what people need help with now is a direction to drive the business forward in. We're still a really small kind of group of people. There's me who runs everything. I've now got Chelsea, my partner, who does social media, and I've got a site manager and things like that, but it's still all sat on my shoulders. And with so much coming in and so many different directions we can go, it needs a larger team. So the interest to me was having a Dragon on board and being able to use their larger team to be able to take this out quicker than what I can do it.
So tell me your experience with it. Well, how did you put your pitch together? How did you put your investment idea together? How did that all work?
Yeah, so that was a really long process because behind the scenes, there's a huge amount goes into it before you even get anywhere near the den. So for me, it was a really good learning process into exactly how my business works, stuff that I don't do day to day. So all the due diligence side of stuff, which took months and months and months before we got anywhere near the den, every figure, every piece of information about my business had to be collated and sent in a pack. And that process was really eye-opening to me because I could have an overview of everything in one place, where normally what I do is as we expand, we do a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and we actually don't really see where it comes from, and I just kind of go with it. But that was really good for me. But then when it came down to things like, getting the pitch right, how I'm going to portray this business across to the Dragons, because it is very hard. We only have a certain amount of time in the den. We only have a certain amount of space to do, because how do you do a set of a glamping site in the Dragon's Den? It's not a very easy thing to do. But that was something that I just spent. I set aside every morning. I got up at 5:30 every morning. I got my shoes on and I walked down the woods. And I walked down the woods for about half an hour, going over things. And every day I'd just add a little bit more and a little bit more until I got, the figures in my head, the speech in my head, everything, all that sort of stuff. And then it was just repetitive over and over and over, just making sure, because I didn't want to be that person who goes on and goes, yeah, I forgot that bit, or I don't know, because that, you see that mistake over and over again. And I understand, because when it's nerve-wracking, your brain can go off sideways. So I try to put myself in situations, whether it be walking around the house doing it with the kids talking over the top of me, or the phone ringing, or Chelsea asking what we're doing tonight, all these distractions that are coming in, and me trying to keep on focus on, in my head, on what I'm saying. And that really did help me. It was something that I found very beneficial. And then when we went into the den, it really showed then.
Yeah, it's interesting because I speak from stage and I know a lot of people who do, and obviously you're in Dragon's Den, and people pitch for other things that I speak to, and also because I've had a history of brain damage, so I know a bit about how the brain works. And the frontal lobe at the front here, when you go into fight or flight, which many of us do when we go through those situations, the body cuts off some of the blood supply to certain parts of the brain, including the frontal lobe. And that's to allow you to have your basic prehistoric kind of functions that you need to be able to run away from that lion, kill that dragon, all of those things. Unfortunately, this means that it does stop you from being able to think clearly and from being able to put into place kind of that logical reasoning. And what you've talked about there is how you managed to get a lot of that information into your memory storage bank that didn't need to rely on that logical thinking. It became more of a habit. It became more of a, something that was there and didn't need those parts of the brain pulling it out. So, yeah.
And I think for me, that rehearsal was the bit that I needed to do. When it comes to the business and the question, you've got the initial pitch that you have to give. That was the thing that I was worried about, because if you forget it or you get off track and it suddenly goes the wrong way, it's a bad start. As with everything, it's always first impressions, isn't it? So, but when it gets into the business itself, that was really comfortable for me, because again, from my point of view, it's very easy. I'm 100% in charge of everything, so I already know it. It's not something I'm needing to learn. I know exactly how the units are booked, how we built them, when they're opening, what we do to do this, that, and the other, because I do it all. So I was in quite a unique position. I know a lot of businesses go on with 2 or 3 or 4 partners or whatever it might be, and each person does an individual part of that business, where because it's all me and just on me, the actual conversations after the pitch were relatively easy for me. It was kind of like me and you chatting now. It was on that one-to-one basis where I don't really need to recall anything because it's already in me. So that bit I found a lot easier to deal with, and the questions going forward, and my passion for this business is there. It's not something I'm doing because I have to. It's doing because I love it. So then I found it really easy to answer the points that they needed questions on.
So talk me through the process. So you walked into the lift. The
Yeah,
lift took you up. The doors opened,
yeah,
and you were faced with the dragons and
yeah,
TV cameras everywhere.
yeah.
How did that feel stepping into the room in front of them?
So it's still, the way I describe it is, it's like, it sounds corny. It's like an out of body experience. It's like I was stood behind myself watching it on TV. It genuinely wasn't real. And even now when I think about it, and again, that initial pitch, it seemed to me robotic because I'd said it so many times, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So it just came out. It wasn't even like it sounds horrible, but it was like it didn't mean anything because it was just something that I had to say. When I then got into the pitch, that was a different case entirely. But that first bit, getting out there and walking, because them lights are very, very bright. Yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking. But once that pitch was done, it then flowed from there.
How long do you have to do that initial pitch? Is it a minute?
So it's up to 3 minutes,
Right.
although again, the producers kind of steer you in certain directions. So you have to submit all this content before you arrive. So if they think it's maybe too long or doesn't actually engage with the audience or come across quite correct, they'll ask you for some corrections. But that first bit is up to 3 minutes. I think mine came in at about 2.5 minutes.
And then what were you ultimately asking for in your pitch?
So in the pitch, that as in regards to figures, I was asking for £100,000 for a 5% stake in the Secret Garden Glamping. Now, ultimately, what I was looking for wasn't the investment; it was the guidance to scale. Where we're at now, we're really well placed in the market. We're way out ahead of anybody else, which is great. And I could quite easily sit here quite comfortably for the next 5-10 years, no problem at all. But that's not what I want to do now. I want to take this nationwide. And to do that, I need somebody on board who can scale something from not just thousands, but from millions to tens of millions, because that is a whole different journey to what I've done. And I'll be totally honest, it's not something that I like doing, because the whole premise of the Secret Garden Glamping is it's not really here to make money. It's to make an experience, to make a guest's holiday something that they can remember. And I know for a fact, if I run it like a business, that the business will suffer because of that. If I start penny pinching on, why do we put chocolates in there when customers arrive? We don't need to do that. Why do we let them have X, Y, and Z within the packages? We don't need to do that, because when it comes down to a business point of view, you could strip out a lot, and I think you lose a lot of the soul of the business then. So I want to make sure that I can concentrate on the soul of the business and have somebody with me who can push us in the direction to grow to where we need to be to accommodate the guests that we have.
What were you saying that you were going to spend that investment on, and what did you hope to achieve for that investment?
So that was to lead us on to a new site. So when we did the filming, which was back in May of last year, that's when we were looking for a new site, because the planning permission after the last one we're doing that opens in April, that's the planning permission done for this site. So the next logical step is to find a new property and expand from there, planning permission again. So it's mainly setup costs, because our site is fully self-funding. When we launch a unit, which the Wonderland that opens next week, we launched that back last year. That unit has already paid for itself with the pre-bookings that it's done. So there's the business is fully self-funding as far as getting there. But when we first started, there was an initial infrastructure costs. So car park, water, waste, power, footpaths, lighting, all this sort of stuff before we actually build a unit, which is what we were looking for in a dragon.
So from my experience of the whole investment game, I know from speaking to many investors that one of the number one things they're looking for is someone that they believe in and someone that they feel they can work with, and someone who has the same vision as them. And so who finally invested in your project from the dragons?
In the end, all the dragons wanted to invest. So all the dragons offered me all the money. Tuka actually offered me more than I wanted. But in the end, I sold 5% to Deborah Meaden. And that was because all the dragons were phenomenal. Everybody wanted to invest and everybody would bring something different. But when Deborah was speaking, and she was speaking about my business, everything she was saying was like I said, like I was thinking it. It was like she was in my brain. So everything she was saying about the direction the market's going and what we can do with it and how I look at the business was exactly how I see it. So in the end, I sold 5% to Deborah Meaden then.
But it's really interesting because actually what you're saying is you really wanted to have someone on your team behind you, helping to steer you in the direction that's going to be best for your business and opening doors and all of that kind of stuff. And yet, so Deborah is going to be providing you with that. And she is a multi-million-pound holiday business owner. She has heaps and heaps of experience of what it takes and how to build a massive holiday business brand.
Yeah.
And so essentially she's almost paid you to give you that knowledge, that guidance, and that's incredible. And yet you also get your your infrastructure put in place for your new project. And essentially you were flying before, but she's just given you a rocket booster power.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is, because that's where we need to be now. We need to, it's been amazing growing organically like we have, but we need, that extra push now because we can't keep up with the demand. And we know, I've got a million ideas jumping out of my head all the time. And it's being able to have people on board to help me push the vision that I want to. And with Deborah, because it's not just about, oh, well, we need X amount and let's do that. Deborah really had the same outlook as me. One of the questions that came up in the den was actually off Sarah. Sarah's lovely. I love Sarah Davies. She's amazing. But she asked me, assuming that it was the answer, she said, oh, I assume you charge different rates at different times of the year. So when it's school holidays, you charge more, when it's winter, you charge less. And I said, no, I don't, because for me, it grates on me that holiday companies, airlines, whatever it might be, always try and add extra charges on when they know they can. So they know that everybody has to go on holiday in the summer holidays because you can't take the kids out of school. So they will charge you twice as much for the privilege of taking your own children on holiday, which has always grated on me. So when it came to this, I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. I could do, but I'm not going to. I charge the same whether you come and staying in the middle of the summer holidays or on a Wednesday in December. It makes no odds to me, because why should I charge more to guests when they have to come as opposed to when they want to come? So that was my kind of line in the sand. And Sarah was a bit shocked about it. But then Deborah, which is why I love her, she came up and said, no, you've got the absolute right to choose what you charge people. She said, you've built this business, and if you want to, put your line in the sand and say, I'm not going to charge people because I can, then that's where you stand, because that's how I feel about it. And things like that only change if people stand up and do something about it. So there's, if everybody just does it, everybody does it. But I don't want to do that. And that's where, again, you'd think with a dragon, it would literally be about profit. Right, okay, we can make more money here, let's do that. Where it seemed like with Deborah, it wasn't about that, because it does come down to your philosophy and what you believe and what you think is right, which really, resonated with what I do.
Yeah, I can definitely see that Deborah's almost pitching to you at that point. She was obviously interested in your project, and she was connecting with a similar vision that you both have, a similar ethos. So very, very clever. So in terms of your investment, you're going to be putting it into infrastructure. So tell me a little bit about your new piece of land.
Yeah, so the new site we're actually signing for today. So this afternoon, we bought a place called La Mancha Hall. So it's a big stately home, 15 acres of land. It is stunning. grade 2 listed. It's phenomenal. And with that, there's a 5-acre piece of woodland. So what we want to do is take what we've done now at our woodland here, but also have that background of a beautiful, stately manor, and have all the things that come with it. So we're quite limited where we are. We have the units and we have the space here, but there's nothing really around us. You know, we're surrounded by open fields. That's it. Once the customers are in the units, that's it. But actually, again, as we've come out of COVID, people want to interact with each other. People want to do other things. We want to add on more facilities. So, for example, there's a huge outdoor swimming pool. So we're going to do a day spa based around that. We're going to be able to offer restaurant food, drinks, bars, things like that. All these additions to what we already do in a stunning setting.
And do you have meeting areas, communal areas now?
Yeah, well, again, as we go forward out of COVID now, obviously our kind of model was always about the seclusion of that unit. So each unit is designed so it's totally enclosed. It's not overlooked by anybody. Everything has dedicated facilities, which is what people still want when they're going away. But again, as I said earlier on, when people are holidaying as larger groups, or so groups of families or whatever else, they want their own space, which is great, but then they want places to congregate together, whether that be, outdoor facilities, whether that be indoor facilities, different things like that. That's what people want to do now, and that's where the direction we're going with our units now.
So you're signing for this whole stately home as well as the land?
Everything, yeah.
So that's really exciting, because that's really going to diversify your offering. You're going to be able to do events, meals, retreats, weddings. Is so lucrative. So is this the way you plan to go along the events experience style of things, as well as providing an experience-based accommodation?
Yeah, exactly. We want to add more things because we get requests for so many different things, whether that be corporate events, whether it be weddings, whether it be vow renewals, even down to, the kind of hen do, which has changed a lot recently. Gone are the kiss me quick hats in Blackpool, and now it's all about treating the bride to something that's really nice for them to do. And having all these different facilities, we can accommodate not only a lot more guests, but a lot more activities and things that they can do. I think the direction of the market now and where we're going with it is certainly that, upper class, more luxurious, ultimate seclusion type of venue. And that's the direction we're going with it now. So yeah, it's going to be a phenomenal project. And we've, obviously we've gained a lot of notoriety within the glamping economy and glamping forums and stuff, and people are seeing what we're doing and how we're doing it. It might be the way we design the units, the furniture we use, the different plants or different hot tub areas or whatever else, and all these individual parts of the units are replicated. There's lots of other sites across the UK now doing similar things to what we're doing. So they'll see us put a new unit on, and then they'll do a similar hot tub area or bar areas or neons or plant walls, and you see all these things coming into the market now. So when we're looking going forward now, what can we do to make sure we're staying ahead? And this sort of site, it can't be replicated. I could live to be 100 and have all the money in the world, and I cannot replicate that site. The formal gardens there have been there for over 200 years. I couldn't replicate that if I tried forever. So what we want to do is now take not only what we're doing within glamping, but incorporate that into a much larger experience.
So it's really interesting what you're saying there about the fact that there are copycats out there. So I know that this is part of, unfortunately, business. I've had exactly the same happen to my own business. Copycats take what you've designed from scratch, and then they just repurpose it and do exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I've not really heard somebody say it in the same way that I feel it is, which is, okay, that's fine. I can still come up with these ideas. I can still move forward and do something different and find my USP and find my new project and find my thinking, because I've come up with it creatively. Is that the way you think about it in terms of those copycats?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, I always think about it the other way. If the shoe was on the other foot and I was coming to the market and somebody was doing something phenomenal, I would absolutely go in that direction. It'd be stupid not to. It is the honest answer. If somebody's doing really well, yeah, let's do something totally different. It doesn't, sometimes it does work, and when you kind of come into a market and you change the direction of that market. So I don't have any gripe with anybody doing it because it's what I'd do. And in all fairness, if people are replicating what I'm doing, it just means that more people are seeing similar units to mine. So ultimately, that's what people expect. So this is what I tend to find now as we go forward. Whatever people are replicating, it's always what I did a year ago or 2 years ago. Because by the time we launch something new, we're already, stage 4, 5, 6, and 7 ahead. But and that's fine. There's no issue with the units themselves. So we always try and come up with something more that we can do. And that's what I love doing. That's the challenge for me as we go forward. But then it's now finding, okay, well, we can replicate this over and over again because we're going to do the same. If I open 3 or 4 or 5 more sites and replicate what we've done here, they'll all be very similar. So what is going to distinguish site A from site B from site C within my own organization, not only within the whole glamping economy itself? So I need to find things that are going to separate my own units and my own sites from myself, as well as what everybody else is doing.
I also believe it's a little bit of mindset. So a lot of people come from a place of scarcity, and so they kind of think, oh, if they're copying me, there's not going to be enough customers to go around, and therefore I'm going to lose my business and I'm going to eventually die as a business. Whereas you're coming to it with the idea of actually there's lots of guests to go around, there's lots of people who want to stay. What you're doing is kind of helping re-educate the consumer really into what is now an expectation within the market and what they can expect, what they can buy, and everything else that's available to them. So you're kind of re-educating them, which is really interesting. So at a time when the industry is a little bit, for some, shaky, obviously not for you, there is definitely a sense of scarcity around amongst some people. And that, I think, is founded. I can understand why that might be when someone has been doing really well for a long time, and then because of the cost of living crisis and everything else, people pulling back their spending, how many holidays they're booking, that's kind of changing things a little bit for some people. So your view of the industry and the fact that it's going in a different way, which is more quality, high class, high end, what has made, other than your experience in the industry, what's kind of made you go along that thinking that that's where we're going at a time when many are saying, oh no, I've got to put my prices down, I've got to make it more affordable because that's what people want? If you're saying the opposite.
So it is. This is why I speak to everybody whenever I go to any event or any, I'm doing some talks this month as well. I'll talk about every single part of this for free. I do not care, because to me, the more focus there is on glamping or unique accommodations, to me, as a wider part, that's only going to benefit me. If we're taking away customers from hotels or from holiday companies or people going to Benidorm or to the south of France or whatever else, that's only going to ultimately benefit me, because I'm trying to get as many people to focus on the UK staycation economy as possible, and that way we all will benefit as a larger group. But again, you're right, the cost of living has been a thing that's coming along for a while, and this is what comes back to what we were saying earlier about holidaying as larger groups now, multi-generational families. What people have realized is actually, if I, from my own point of view, if I go away with Chelsea and the kids and we go away for a week to Benidorm, in theory that cost is all on me. If I'm bringing the money in, although there's 4 of us and you could think, well, I'm going to split, it's 4 ways, so it's a couple of £100 each. It's not. Ultimately, it's me paying the full amount. Where actually, if you go away as some couples or some families, or with nan and granddad and auntie and uncle, and you can split that cost down. We've done it for a long, long time. My brother lives in Mississippi. So me and my partner and the kids and my mum and my brother and his wife all descend on on Florida, because he drives down, and we hire a villa, which we wouldn't be able to afford myself on my own, but between 3 different families, we can afford that villa and we can all holiday there, actually cheaper than we could if it was just me and the kids. So I've noticed that for a long time, and then that's really kind of hit home, especially in this cost of living crisis, where actually if you can split something down between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, then it's way better. So the main one that I've noticed is with ours, for example. So when people say, our units, the starting price on our units are at the minute sort of £220 a night, which can be quite expensive if it was just a couple. But what we tend to find is most people are coming as a group of 3 or 4, women who want to get away from the husbands or, get away from the kids or whatever else. So when it's that amount, it's actually only £55 each, which is cheaper than staying in a Premier Inn. So when you look, the higher the market goes and the larger you can accommodate, the cheaper that becomes per person. So when you're looking at, I was speaking to a guy yesterday who wants to come on board, and we're going to do something together, and he's got a stately home in Scotland, and that accommodates 24 people, and he charges £2,000 a night. And £2,000 a night, that's crazy money to I mean, it's a beautiful home, but it's £2,000 a night. But between 24 of you, I doubt anybody could find anywhere to stay, even pitching up a tent at a campsite for that amount of money if there's that many people. So it becomes way more affordable, and ultimately you have a better experience.
So this is obviously the way you're going with a stately home. Which the stately home, is it going to be divided up in terms of having the same kind of accommodation internally? Is it going to be designed like a hotel? Tell me a little bit about the bricks and mortar side of things.
So to be fair, the main focus at the moment is on the glamping site itself, getting all that set up and running. The stately home at the moment is going to be the backdrop to everything. With that, it comes with stables and coach houses and outbuildings. I'm sure there's lots of different things we can do with it as we go forward. But it's mainly to have that kind of space for people to relax and unwind. Again, if you're doing a wedding or an event, or if you're hiring out the site and you've got this phenomenal place to wander around in, we don't actually need to do anything with there as of yet, and then we can go forward from there.
Oh, it's really exciting. I'm so excited. So yeah, I mean, you've been incredibly generous to the industry, to the community, to business owners, and I know that you've spent a long time talking to lots of people about different things they can do to improve their business and learn lessons from what you've done and all that kind of stuff. And I know that people are very, very grateful for all of that. And if I could be so bold as to ask if you had any tips for people who might be looking to gain investment, and if you could maybe summarize a few of your top tips and give me a little bit of an idea about why they are your top tips.
Ooh, there's a good one. So throughout the process with Dragon's Den, what the big thing for me was being able to culminate everything into one place. If you don't know every part of your business, every figure, nobody else is going to buy into it. With an investor, what they're, like you said earlier, they're not really just looking for the pounds and pence, although they do have to stack up. What they want to know is that you're driven, that you're motivated, that you're ambitious, that you want to do something with the brand or the offering that you're doing. So really, you're selling yourself rather than selling the business. That's what any investor is going to look for when they're going forward. And it's kind of similar to what we're doing now, as we're looking to expand to multiple sites. So as we go forward now, we're looking to bring in other partners and other venues and other sites that still want to run a business, but alongside what we're doing, because I can't be in 10 places at the same time. So what I'm looking for in somebody is somebody who is ambitious and passionate about the business, because that's at the end of the day what everybody's looking for. It's got to stack up from an investment point of view, but I think you'll find today a lot of investors are philanthropic. It's not just about that. If they've made money in doing X, Y, and Z, they actually want any investment they're doing to be a benefit, whether that be to the environment, to the local economy, to the people that you're employing, whatever else it might be. So all these things are important. It's not just, okay, we take X amount per year and we make this a year, but actually we're poisoning the planet, or we're, destroying parts of the forest, or whatever else it might be. It's really important to investors now, your outlook on the business and how you're going to drive that forward, and making sure that you're doing it within the framework that they want to work with.
So they aren't looking just for the money. But would you say that certainly a top tip for you was honing your pitch and knowing exactly what you're going to say? But how did you structure that?
Yeah, so the pitch itself, like I said, when I got all the information together and actually going through it, there were certain parts of the business that I thought maybe were less important. And when I sat and worked it all out, I realized what investors are looking for. So although I thought it was really important to be able to show every individual part of what I've done here, which is great, it's a great business, but especially with Dragon's Den, they're not really looking to buy a glamping site. That's not what they're investing in. They're investing in your vision to what you can do going forward. So if they, for example, Deborah investing in here at 5%, it'd take her 50 years to make her money back, maybe something like that. But that's not what the investment is. The investment is in me to be taking this business to 5 and 10 and 20 sites. So what the investor wants to see is a clear path forward from where right, you've done X and you've done that really well. That's great. That's your kind of security to say that I've done it already and it's done really well. But what they want is a vision going forward. How are you going to make this business, a 10 million pound brand, a 100 million pound brand? If you're looking at like Apple and Tesla, billions of pounds. What takes you from there to where we need to be, where an investor who's got 5% is suddenly making millions a year off that? And it's not going to be from doing a glamping site in Skelmersdale, but it is going to be doing multiple locations across the country and then across the world as we go forward. So at the start of it, I focused a heck of a lot on the individual parts of this business, where when I sat and thought about it, what I needed to do is say, this is what we've done, and this is how we're going to take it to 10 sites and 20 sites.
Really interesting and fantastic advice. I think that's definitely how people need to get out of the weeds of their own business.
Yeah.
To think about the bigger vision and how can they construct that in a pitch to their investors to make it a really exciting prospect for the future, so that they know they're investing in a much bigger thing. So this is going on in a couple of days on UK television where people can watch you, but obviously this is going to be published after that. How can people catch up and watch you walking into the Dragon's Den?
It's airing on Thursday the 11th at 8 p.m, but then I think within about 5 minutes of it airing, it goes straight onto iPlayer. So you can catch it on iPlayer anytime after 9 p.m. on Thursday. And then obviously it'll be on social media channels, my social media, BBC's, Dragon's Den. So there's lots of different ways you can catch up, but BBC iPlayer is definitely the best one. You can do that on your smart TV or on your phone anytime.
I'll be sure to leave some links there. And also, you are obviously still operating Secret Garden Glamping. You're open for people to book, and that's going to be, is it going to be the same name and brand for your new business?
Yeah, so as we go forward now, we're going to have the Secret Garden Glamping at such a place. So the current site is the Secret Garden Glamping at Mole Hall. Then we'll have the next one and the next one. So each one will still be the Secret Garden Glamping brand. Although, again, as we expand, because it's not just glamping that we want to do, the whole holiday accommodation market is something that we're looking at. So whether that be boutique hotels, larger accommodations like stately homes and things like that, there's lots of different things that we can take from what we've done in glamping into other parts of holiday accommodation, because it's all relevant. People are looking to get away, whether that be in a glamping pod, in a stately home, in a really nice hotel, whatever it might be. It's all the same sort of customers who are still looking to get away and experience something. And that can be glamping in a woodland, it can be sailing on a boat, It can be staying in a manor house. It's all these different things combined.
So if somebody had a property and
Yeah.
they had something that, or a piece of land, and they're thinking, I really like this dairy. I want to work with him, or I want to speak to him about how we could, link up our visions. How would they do that? How would they get in touch?
Easiest way is either straight through my social media, so either Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at The Secret Garden Glamping, or on the website. My phone number is on the website. It always is. So the main contact number on the website is still me. It always will be. So you can give me a ring on there or send me an email, info at thesecretgardenglamping.uk. I think again, as we go forward, it's something we haven't spoke about before, but collaborations across different businesses and different industries is huge at the moment. That's what really resonates with audiences. And I want to collaborate with as many different people as possible. And it might be something that we're doing here or something similar. It might be we can take a pop-up unit to their site and, promote their site overall. There's all different avenues that we can go down. And it doesn't have to be, we have a specific franchise model, but we can have partnership agreements, we can have licensing agreements, we can just have a collaboration on social media that works really well. There's all different options, and I hate saying no to anything. So I love like the movie Yes Man. I find the further down the path you go, it will figure its way out along the way. So I love to find out if people have any ideas of different directions they want to go with things, that we could go with things. I'm happy to link up with anybody.
So as you are a serial yes man,
Yeah.
how on earth do you ever get some time off?
Well, do you know what? Actually, and again, this is a funny little thing. When I was speaking to a friend of mine the other week, and he said, "You need to work less. You're working too much." And I said it like genuinely, and it sounds like airy fairy. I don't work. Like, this is my absolute passion. It's my hobby. I would do it for free. All it's like a friend of mine. He really loves going watching F1, and when he goes watching F1, that's his hobby. That's it. It's not work to him, because that's his hobby. And it's the same with me here. This is my hobby. I would do this every day for free. So I'm never going to work. I'm talking with people like yourself. After this conversation, I'm going to go and do a photo shoot on one of the new units. Then we're going signing for the new property. There's so many exciting things. If only I didn't have to fall asleep. I'd be happy then. I could carry on all day and all night. It's brilliant.
Do you know what? You have just mirrored. It's something that I've said before, time and time again. I always get the weirdest looks from people when I say it. And I always say, I just wish I didn't have to go to sleep. And they just don't get it. They just don't see it or understand it. I think that is truly the word said of someone who loves what they do and is building something, a legacy for their family. And I think it's fantastic. I wish you all the luck in the world. I'm so pleased for you that you managed to get this investment. And I know that you're going to go places. And I hope you continue to come back to the podcast and inspire us with all of your news.
I love it. I do. I genuinely love speaking to you. It was great last time. And it is. Actually, from your podcast last time, I had so many people messaging me, just asking me questions about stuff. And I've had conversations for 3-4 hours on the phone just after an email because they listened to this podcast and they were asking. It was, as people asking about how I do my social media or how I do, the units or whatever else it might be. I'll talk to anybody forever. My missus hates it. She goes crazy, Chelsea, because I'm always doing it. I did it last night. I was sat on the phone to somebody for about 2 hours just chatting away because I love it. I genuinely love talking about this industry. I think it's phenomenal. Anybody who's, downhearted with it at the minute or thinking that it's not quite going the right way, there's lots of different things you can do, and the customers will be there if you have the right the right outlook on it. And it's going to be, I think 2024 is going to be a hard year because there's a lot of stuff going on, but as long as you get the foundations right, we'll build it for the future.
It's really interesting you say that as well, that if someone is a bit downhearted by what's going on, maybe they just need to look over there and see what's going on and, maybe just investigate something else.
Well, it is. You know what? One of the questions that comes up all the time is with social media, especially. People ask me questions on social media all the time because of our audience. Our audience is the largest of any holiday company in the UK. We've got a bigger audience than Centre Parks, and they were worth 4 billion. and I've got 12 units in SCEM. You know, it's not a hard thing to do. But the one thing I always say to do with social media is look who's doing well. I guess it is, like we was talking earlier, it's kind of frowned upon a little bit. Well, I don't want to copy what somebody else is doing. It's not so much copying what they're doing, but learn from what they're doing. So the thing I always suggest is go on to my social media, go on to Centre Park social media, go any social medias that are doing well, look at what they're doing and why they're doing well. So it doesn't have to be a word for word plagiarism copy of something, but if they're doing a lot of social media about events, maybe try some more about events. If they're doing a lot of social media about the units, try doing some about them. There's no harm in seeing what other people are doing and trying to kind of go with the tide. If you're fighting against it, it's always going to be hard. So that's the one thing that I always say with people. Look on our social media, see what we're doing. It obviously works. So try and follow along those steps. And it is the same when it comes to the units or the things you offer. There's no harm in looking at what other people are doing, because to me, some people might not like it. To me, it benefits the whole market if we're all going in the same direction.
I think that's brilliant. Wise words. Thank you so much, Derry, for your time today. I know it's been a big chunk out of your day, and I do appreciate it, and so do my listeners.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anytime. And yeah, I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
If you're in business, you probably have a website, but can your site handle your growth? How many visitors before your site slows down or crashes? What about storage and data security? From web hosting to virtual servers, Pair Networks provides the online infrastructure you need to start, grow, and flourish. When it comes to security and updates, don't worry, we've got you covered. Our 24/7 US-based customer support is the best in the industry. No frustrating chatbots or sitting on hold for hours. Check out pair.com today to learn more. That's PAIR.com.